back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. I am one of your hosts this week, Wrestling Chris G, and on the other line with me is the jolly one of the group, good old Dougie Fresh. Dougie, my man, how you doing?
Thank you very much for that wholehearted introduction. They call you Two-Take Chris for a reason.
So how you doing, man?
I'm all right.
It's a nice Tuesday night. We're sitting back and recording this episode, and it's a nice night. I'm kind of just chilling today.
Ain't bad. Ain't too bad.
I've been getting in a little bit of my PlayStation plays these past few days, and I've been playing some Elder Scrolls Online. And boy, am I leveling up now that I figured out how to really level up properly without getting my ass kicked.
Well, that's the give and take of these games. I mean, you're going to get in there and you're going to get your head kicked in. Originally,
dude, I still haven't beaten that one witch woman that I told you about a month ago. I jumped back on a few days ago and walked through this temple, not even remembering that that I had gotten my ass kicked, and that was the reason I turned the game off for a while, because I just couldn't beat this woman. And I'm just going through this temple, totally oblivious. And I'm like, I was like, oh, this temple's pretty easy. Bah, hit you with my spell. Bah, hit you with my spell. And then I get all the way down to the end, and this woman's like, oh, you think you can beat me? And as soon as I hit the stairs, and I looked down, and I was like, I remember this. I was like, I'm about to get my ass handed to me. And Jordan is sitting right next to me. And he's like, oh, I remember this. He's like, have fun. I was like, what do you mean have fun? So I go down there and I start fighting this woman in the game. And this woman, she is so unfair. It's like I need like a crew of like 6 or 7 people to fight this woman, right? So I go down there and she summons up these like lava monsters and these rock monsters out of the ground. She just goes, rah, and they chase you around the board. So you have to defeat these things chasing you around the board. And you also have to hit this woman while she's doing it too, because you can beat these 2 little beings that's following you easily, but as soon as you beat them, you better go after her, because in about 30 seconds, she's going to summon them right back up to start following your butt again. And let me just say that I never made it past the first like killings of both of those monsters following me around. And yeah, it just made me mad. I tried like 4 or 5 times, gave up, logged out of the game, went back in so it'll get me out of that temple level, and I just went to go and find some other like missions that I can do to level up my character. And I'm doing it, and she better be ready for when I go back there, because I'm gonna fuck her up.
Tune in next week when he goes, son of a bitch.
Oh, it's not going to be next week. I got a few more levels. I've been able to level up from level 10 to level 17 so far. And I saw a guy beating this woman by himself, and he was a level 35 or 40. So I have a while, but I'm going to be bulking up like freaking crazy. And when I go down there, it's going to be 2-shot Hardy all up in there. I'm just going to be ba and just kill her.
Famous last words, I think.
I know, for real. But yeah, that's me. I've been on the good old PS5. I actually got asked by one of my friends recently that they want a second PS5 in their house.
Greedy. Greedy motherfuckers.
It's not, they're not being greedy. I guess the child and the father are not agreeing on games back and forth, and they have to share the one PS5 that's in the house.
Greedy.
You don't know his work schedule.
I don't care. That's ridiculous.
So yeah, they want a second one inside of the house, and I helped them get their first one. I actually ordered it for them, and they came by and picked it up. But I'm helping them try to score a second one to no luck so far.
Yeah, I was going to ask, are we still in that? Because we were out of that zone for a minute.
Yeah, we're definitely in that zone. And Jesus, it's hard. It's hard out there, and I mean, I'm glad I'm not struggling to get one because I mean, selfishly, I got myself one, and then I started helping everybody else get theirs. But I'm not going to talk about how I got mine. I got lucky.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's kind of what it is. I mean, I was walking around yesterday and I realized I'm coming up on the year anniversary of when I was able to get my pre-order in. I don't know exactly when it was. I feel like it was in September, but I don't know.
Really?
And I guess I could go back and I guess I could look through my email and find it. But
yeah,
because I didn't get on. It was a Saturday. I know that much.
Yes.
But other than, I mean, if you hear dead air during this podcast, that's what I'm doing because now I'm curious. But
as to when you found it.
Yeah, because I remember I had to get up early on a Saturday.
Yeah, well, it was me and you. I think me and you both. And we got online and we're both trying to score one for you. And I think me and you actually both had. I'm still holding on to me and you had the same one inside of our cart. and you checked and you ended up checking out with it because I had one in that cart. I was like, "Are you sure?" I was like, I can click the checkout button. You're like, "No, I got it. Holy shit.
Yeah, no, that's accurate.
I remember. That was funny. But yeah, I'm sorry for anyone out there that's still having no luck getting the good old PlayStations out there. I do want to do a little bit of homework. I'm not sure when this episode is going out that we're doing, but we're recording this on September 28th, everybody. And in about 1 week, the new Pokemon movie is actually coming out on Netflix. It's actually going to be available on Netflix. And me and you are we've agreed to sit down and review this movie. And we're actually going to have it kind of jump the line a little bit into black and white. But I mean, if you're listening to this now, I'm sure you've already heard it, but we haven't recorded it yet. I'm kind of stoked because I watched the Japanese version, Doug.
Yeah, because you just couldn't wait a couple weeks.
Dude, it was staring me in the face.
That holds no water.
It holds a lot of water if you watch the movie. But yeah, the movie is called Pokemon the Movie: Secrets of the Jungle. Pokemon Go is actually having a little event that's going to be going on revolving around this movie to where you can get Zarude in your Pokemon Go game. You're also yeah, I'm not going to get. I can't really go too much into it because if I go too much into it, I'm going to be giving out spoilers if you haven't listened to it yet. So I can't do that, Doug. But I can't wait to talk about it. Very beautiful movie. The scenery is amazing, which is really what made me want to review the movie even more. But yeah, you guys are getting an early movie this year, so I'm not sure, Doug. I'm not sure if I'm going to be in the mood to do an end of the year movie around Christmas time, unless I get talked into it. But I'm not sure how I'm going to be feeling about going right back and doing another movie in about a month or two down the line.
Well, it'd be about 2 months. I mean, it really depends. I mean, because the one that we were discussing is only like an hour, so it's not like it's actually,
Yes.
So I don't think it would be. I don't think it's going to break anybody's back. I mean,
That is true. Because we were talking about a specific one, and I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not sure when this episode. I haven't done my homework yet because we have such a huge backlog, to the point where we've actually already recorded the episode after this one, peek behind the curtain. But yeah, we have such a huge backlog. I'm not sure when this episode is actually dropping, but there's a good chance that this episode is dropping, and probably in a few weeks you're going to get a movie. Depending on how me and Doug are feeling. If we're feeling antsy, Doug, are you feeling antsy, man?
I tend not to. I mean, it was 9:25, so yeah, I've passed the anniversary.
Oh, okay.
I found it.
You did.
I've been looking. I was about to cuss. I was like, motherfucker, I can see the order number, but I don't have the original thanks for your order email, but then I found it.
There you go, Doug.
I was like, son of a bitch. But yeah, so it was 9:25, so I am a little past the. So I was probably thinking about it on the year anniversary without realizing it, because if today's the 28th, yeah, then I was. So yeah, there you go.
All right. And
good night, everybody. Oh no, we still got to do the show.
Oh yeah, we still got to do the show. This is and you're getting a little bit more talking in this episode, because the episode we're about to do today, Holiday Hi-Jynx, is actually a pretty straightforward episode. Even going kind of scene by scene in this episode, you can paraphrase the mess out of this episode and still basically be done with it in about maybe like 15 minutes. Like there's really not much in this episode, which I'm guessing is the reason they weren't in a huge rush on putting this episode back out, because nothing really happens. And again, we're going back in time in this episode, so I don't know. It's a little weird.
I about had a mini stroke. I got the pop up saying your computer will restart outside of active hours. I said, don't you do it, because then I was like, there's no way the battery's low, but it's one of those, hey, there's an update that could be pushed.
So yeah, you probably got the update that I just finished updating on my computer right before we were getting ready to record.
It's possible.
So but yeah, today's episode is Holiday Hi-Jynx, or translated from Japanese, Rougela's Christmas, which I'm guessing is Jinx's name in Japanese. This episode was released October 5th, 1998, and here in the States, December 11th, 1999. So literally wrapping up the winter with this week and next week's episodes for the Christmas holiday before coming back a couple months later, Doug.
Yeah, and it kind of got messed around a little bit, because it was still kind of dealing with the effects of the Porygon episode, because originally I think it was supposed to air like in Japan like on like the 23rd.
Yes.
And it kind of got,
it got pushed with the backlash of the Cyber Soldier Porygon episode. They skipped this episode, and not only did they skip it because of the controversy, but they skipped it because of the backlash of the actual Jynx character. So this episode features the old version of Jynx, Jynx with a black face. Jynx has now since then been rewritten and transformed into a purple Jynx. So Jynx is now purple and not black, because of the whole blackface controversy that people were kind of all up in arms about, which, back in the day when I was watching Pokemon and I saw Jynx and I saw the black Jynx, because I grew up on the black Jynx, everybody, and I didn't think anything of it, and my parents didn't think anything of it. And Did you have any type of like reference to anything, or did when you saw Jinx, were you like, oh man, that's not good? Like, did that kind of strike you at all, Doug?
Well, no, and my thought process is a little fresh because as I was talking to you before we got started, I had just kind of assumed that I had caught this on a re-air or something. But like as soon as the episode started, I was like, I've never seen this. I mean, obviously, I knew about the controversy, and I've seen more purple Jinx than I have, black Jinx. Just because I think that's how she was presented in the game, or they were presented in the game.
Yeah, they did end up changing her in the game. In the original, red, blue, and I believe, don't quote me, but I believe she was still black in the yellow version, if I'm not mistaken.
You might be right, but I don't know where to go to check that.
Yeah. So, so
But yeah, I mean, so I obviously I'm aware that blackface isn't good. Like
but
Ted
I also
Danson.
don't think that was their intention either when they created this Pokemon.
No, I mean, I wouldn't. I sure would hope not. I can't imagine the executives at the Pokemon company going, "Oh, let's shock the people."
Yeah, and I mean they do reference Jinx as the human based Pokemon when Dexter is used in this episode, but again, I really don't think that that's what they were aiming at. I think they tried to use the whole black in the face to kind of like maybe like the hair is kind of like shading the face and maybe just hiding the real features of Jinx. I mean, I don't know, and people are probably in their car laughing at me saying that, but it's no secret. Like I'm a black male, so and I did not get offended in watching this episode, nor have I. Am like still today, am I offended in the black Jinx? I just don't see it, and I can't find it in my heart to really think that was their intentions when they created this Pokemon. Doug?
No, I mean, and is it because you realize it's a cartoon?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, not only is it a cartoon, I mean, I know people put bad taste in cartoons. And I mean, we've seen it a lot. I mean, I'm even one of those where the whole like Donald Duck and the whole Nazi thing, and like people put bad taste and stuff in cartoons back then, but like this was made in the late 90s, early millennium, and it was thrown out there. The episode still ended up airing. I mean, they ended up making an English translation to this cartoon. I don't know. I don't know what ended up sparking the outburst of this Jinx character to turning her from black to purple.
Well, it's the black face with the big round white eyes, and I believe her lips are like a bright red, and it it goes back to the age stuff where like Bugs Bunny was messing around with Native Americans and caricatures of literal Africans in the jungle and stuff, and people are like, oh, Pokemon's, that's what they're leaning on, and I don't, and obviously I don't have much of a leg to stand on being a white male, but I didn't get that impression.
Yeah.
And then in subsequent re-airings, they edit it to have the purple look, and I think that's what, unless you do a Google search, I think that's what you kind of picture in your head now
is the purple look.
Right.
So, yeah, and I get it. Like I'm looking up. I just put in Google right now, like blackface, just to kind of compare, and I see it. I get it. It's just I just don't think that that was their intentions. But here we are. We're about to review this episode, and it's kind of a nothing episode, really.
It very much is. I mean, it's a holiday episode, which is great, but nothing happens. And like you could skip the episode, which obviously for however many years we did skip it, and it's kind of it kind of goes the same boat as the other band episodes. I think there is like a reference made to something that happened in that we didn't see, or something was said about Ash's toros that he caught in the safari zone, which you didn't see unless you saw. But other than a spare reference here or there, you're not really missing much.
No, you're not. So, are you ready? Actually, we haven't even done our dates yet, Doug. We're sitting here talking. I'm about to start the episode. Again, this episode ended up airing December 11th, and I'm going first this week, and this is kind of out of my realm, but that I normally cover. But on this date in 2015. The adult magazine Playboy actually published their last nude issue featuring Pamela Anderson on the cover. And they have now turned into basically a newsworthy magazine. And I think it's only digital. Well, you might still be able to get the magazine, but I believe they're heavily on the digital side now. And do they still have nudity in Playboy, Doug? Do you know?
No, I think they shifted into more of like a Maxim approach.
Gotcha.
So it's like lingerie and bikinis.
Because growing up, I mean, it used to be a big thing for being in Playboy. Like they had a new model every single month, and it was a big deal to be the Playboy of the month.
I couldn't speak to that. I just read it for the articles.
The ones that I saw were back when WWE used to have a month where they would get one of their divas to pose nude inside of the magazine, and those were the ones that I used to see back when I was younger.
So be honest with me.
What's that?
Because you brought up kind of WWE's former partnership with the magazine and stuff. So with all because we got a handful, in our time. We had a couple that were before our time, but we got a couple after the fact. Christy Hemme, Tori Wilson, Tori and Sable did a combo. And then obviously before I started watching, Sable and China had done it.
Yes.
Are you still a little upset that we never got Stacy Keibler?
Oh, dude, like 10 times. Yes. I am so mad because it was her turn. She was and she had agreed to do it. And I'm finally 18 years old. And they cut it.
He was going to buy it with his own hard-earned money.
No joke. I had just turned 18 years old, and it was the time for Stacy Keibler. They were building it up all year. She was Vince McMahon's assistant, and you know that whole storyline because they did it every single year. The diva becomes the assistant to Vince McMahon, and then gets the whole Playboy deal, and then or she has a boyfriend that doesn't want her to do the spread or whatever. And man, it was her turn, and we never got it. And she's
go.
come out and said that yeah, she had agreed to do it, but then they ended up cutting ties with Playboy. And I'm like, man, because they were doing the whole get the F out movement and moving to more of a PG esque TV show. So they had to cut ties with anything adult referenced. And man, I was mad.
Which is the worst thing to say, really. I mean, if maybe have it come out, beyond it. But she basically said, "Yeah, I would have been willing to do it." Like, don't admit that, especially like somebody like you who's a big fan.
Oh,
Like,
dude, she
don't
was my
admit
favorite.
that.
She was gonna do it, but yeah, we never did get a good old Stacy Keibler in the Playboy, and we never will ever again. She's a big mother, long gone from the wrestling community, nowhere near any type of needing any nudity or anything. She's a mother of two, I believe, two or three. I think she has two. But yeah.
No, just because she's a mother doesn't mean she can't get naked.
I think that goes against the stuff that she promotes now. I think.
Well, I'm sure it does, but I'm just saying, if that was the rule that you couldn't be a mother and get naked, the porn industry would be like 5 women.
Yeah, for real. So, all right, but yeah, that was mine that happened, and I believe you said yours happened in 2018, Doug.
Right. So speaking of the porn industry,
Oh, geez.
and I specifically didn't explain to you what I was going to talk about because you would have thrown a fit and I would have had to scramble. So on December, wait a minute.
Uh-oh.
Oh, wait, no. Right. Audible, people. My controversial pick is kind of a Tuesday episode.
Oh, okay.
My controversial pick is for the date of the episode we're going to do after this one.
Oh, well, son of a, so I gotta wait. God damn it.
I do have a date for the 11th.
All right.
Actually,
So
I should have gone way first.
Oh, okay.
Because on December 11th, 1934, the National League in Major League Baseball votes to permit night games starting in the 1935 season.
Oh, okay. That's good stuff. I mean, and obviously it's still going still to today because I mean, most games that we watch these days are during the nighttime.
For the most part, I mean, they'll like Chicago will have a handful of day games just because specifically like Wrigley Field is like still in a neighborhood, and you'll get more day games than not. Like you'll get a handful of like Sunday afternoon games and stuff, but yeah, the majority of your high profile games will be at like 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. So the first, and speaking of Chicago, that's relevant because they didn't get their first night game until 1988 because they didn't have lights at Wrigley Field.
Which you would think would be a big thing for a baseball field.
Well, yeah, but you also got to remember the Wrigley Field was like, built in the 1900s,
True.
And they're going, oh, they're never gonna play night games. And I'm not gonna go into when the first night game was because, for all I know, that could be giving away a date. So I'm gonna keep that under my hat.
Okay.
And by all means, make sure you tune in on Tuesday to hear the date that Wrestling Chris G probably won't want me talking about.
Well, to be honest, I'm not sure if these two episodes that we're doing are going to line up.
Well, no, but I'm not. I'm just saying, just in general, just make sure you tune in on a Tuesday because you never know when that's going to pop up.
Yeah, for real. God, I gotta wait now. So you ready to get on into this
I was
episode?
so mad. I loaded that up and I was like, wait. And then I had a panic attack, and then I was like, no, okay, good. I'm still good.
So, all right. So this week's episode was translated in English. It is not on Pokemon.com. We're actually watching this on a different website. I don't want to give it away on the fear that it might get shut down, depending on what ears ends up hearing this episode. But
exactly, I think that's smart. not that this is like extremely like, oh my god, black market stuff,
but yeah,
you know,
copyright strikes are a son
right.
of a bitch. So all right. But I do want to say out there that even though I'm watching this on a different website, I do own the legitimate copy of this episode. I just did not want to hook up the DVD because my laptop doesn't have a DVD thing on it. So I did not want to hook up the external DVD player to play this episode. So I'm using the good old interweb today.
Lazy.
I know. All right. So this week's episode starts off by looking at a very huge castle on the top of a cliff, which I think is kind of just stupid.
Looks like the opening to Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is kind of dumb because
what happens if that cliff gives away?
Right, exactly. That castle's gone, and whoever's in that castle probably isn't doing too hot either.
For real. So we see Jessie laying in the bed, nice and sleeping, and she's all snug. And then all of a sudden we see a window open, and then we see a step foot down, and then all of a sudden we see a big old net go right across, and it captures someone, and Meowth jumps up and goes, "We caught him!" And and Jessie pops up with a fist and goes, "Merry Christmas, Santa Claus." Probably the line of the night in this episode because she was so happy when she. What's up?
And then I was going to say, and then the title, pardon me, the title screen pops up, and it's not actually Ash doing the voiceover, it's actually Jessie.
Yeah, Jessie actually goes, "Holiday Hi-Jynx." And we come back, and Jessie and me out there just parading and dancing on this. I'm going to guess this is a full-size bed. And they're just dancing.
Oh, no, fam, that's a twin bed, if I've ever seen a twin bed.
That's not a twin bed. That's a
twin bed.
That's a full size.
That's a twin bed if I've ever seen a twin bed.
All right. I beg to differ, but we will see. We'll see. We'll tweet us and tell us at Pokey Breakdown if you think that's a full size or a twin size.
Look, unless the Christmas tree in the shot is cutting off half the bed, that's a twin bed.
Okay. So, but we, Jessie's like, haha, now we get to keep all the presents. And we finally turn the camera around, and they're talking about catching Santa Claus, but inside of the net, it's good old Jessie. I mean, not Jessie, it's good old James.
And he says he feels like a guinea pig in a gunny sack.
You want to go over this next part, Doug?
So, so Jessie basically says that this was a test run. And now that Um, now that we know that it works, now we will get Santa Claus. Which, knowing that it was a test run, makes sense as to why Jessie was like doing her catchphrase in her sleep. Because she was like doing part of the Team Rocket motto. And they're like,
Yes.
that's awkward. And then, find out it's a test run. And we find out that Jessie is holding a grudge
She orchestrated this.
against old Saint Nick.
Yes. And why, you might ask, is she holding a grudge over good old Saint Nick? And this is weird because they're intertwining the real world and into Pokemon in this episode, which is kind of weird. But Santa Claus is a thing in Pokemon. And we get a flashback to Jessie basically sleeping in her bed or going to sleep because she wants to see who Santa Claus really is. So she's laying down in her bed pretending to be asleep, and then all of a sudden we hear something come into the room, and it's none other than Jinx. And Jinx comes over and looks at one of her toys and picks up the toy, and instead of leaving any presents underneath the Christmas tree, goes right back up the chimney. And Jessie, from there on, is like, Santa Claus is a jinx? And she's like, and a thief.
And a thief, yeah. Now, obviously, we have the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of the whole episode and whatever. But, that's traumatizing.
That is real traumatizing. So can you really blame her going forward? Not really believing in Santa Claus and thinking Santa Claus is a Pokemon?
I mean, no, because she literally witnessed it with her one eye that was open under the blanket. Like,
yes.
And I mean, obviously it sounds crazy, so pardon me, nobody's going to believe her, especially, because she doesn't exactly have the best track record as it is,
Not even just that, but not even that, but her stories always seem a little far-fetched when she's going over either her poor life or her rich life. Like, she can't make up. I want to know what happened to Jessie to where she can't remember what happened to her as a child.
Yeah, were you poor and eating the snow, or were you rich living on the wrong side? Right. Because this is dramatically different than her living in the shack eating snow last week.
Yeah, well, no, that's next week. So,
oh shit.
No, you're good. Yeah, she's gonna tell a whole different story next week, which is kind of like leads us into her running joke of not getting her story straight. So 2 straight weeks of Christmas stories, but then we flash back into present day, and Meowth and James are like, Jinx is Santa Claus?
I'll always pop when somebody says Santa Claus like that. I will always, like, it's so, but that always gets me. But yeah, so James, and it's worth noting, obviously, that James is still in the net, and he's sitting there going, Santa Claus never stole any of my presents. And Meow says, yeah, that's screwy. And then Jessie basically flies off the handle, calls me out the furball, says she saw what she saw and she knows what she saw. And, obviously, pardon me, Meowth and old James have no backbone, so they immediately back down.
Yes. And then we go straight from that to finding out this episode is not playing any games and just going to completely fast forward. And we're now in the daytime. It was nighttime. And Ash, Misty, Brock, and Pikachu are on a sandy beach. And they're using their binoculars because they see a Pokemon in the distance. And the Pokemon is holding a boot and we get good old Dexter to tell us that it's Jinx. And this Jinx is considered as a human-based Pokemon in this episode, and that it has a kiss which puts your Pokemon to sleep. Doug?
Yeah, that's kind of her special attack, and you're going to see that move
Fairly soon.
being attempted, like you said, fairly soon and quite often throughout the remaining, the remaining minutes of this episode. It's going to come up quite often.
Yes.
And Ash immediately goes into a trainer mode and says, "Well, I've got to catch it."
And he sends Pikachu in to Thundershock this Jinx. And remember, everybody, so this episode is taking place in the past. So Pikachu is not as strong as he is in the episodes that we're currently covering as of last week. So
Right.
Pikachu goes in and does Thundershock on Jinx, and yes, it does startle Jinx, but it doesn't knock Jinx on its ass. And Jinx basically gets mad, and Pikachu actually gets out of breath from using just that one Thundershock. And Jinx picks up Pikachu and tries to kiss it, and Pikachu's dodging it. It's like, Pika, 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 and just like moving its head around. And then Jinx finally is able to lay that one good kiss in on Pikachu, then putting Pikachu to sleep.
So Ash has to scramble, and he throws out Charmander, because remember, he still has Charmander at this point.
Yes.
Because, what is a timeline anymore? And pardon me, I completely lost. So Charmander comes out, and Ash says, a flamethrower, and Jinx gets legitimately fried. Like the top of its hair turns orange, and Jinx gets knocked loopy, and still holding Pikachu, I should add.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
Ash throws ew. And Ash throws a Pokeball, and then Jinx brings up like some kind of psychic energy, and this boot that Jinx has been holding this whole time floats in front of the Pokeball and deflects the Pokeball from making contact with Jinx.
Yes. And then we come to find out, and Ash is like, wait a minute, that didn't work. And Misty jumps in and is like, wait a minute, don't waste another Pokeball. I think this Jinx might have a trainer because it's holding a boot. Why don't we go over to Jinx to find out if it has a trainer or not? And they walk over to Jinx, and Jinx, even though it's just been electrocuted and fried, it still has a warm heart and is willing on talking to the trio, and shows Misty the boot. And Misty looks inside the boot, and it says Santa Claus. And Misty's like, no way. And she's like, I can't believe this, but I think this Jinx does have a trainer, and I think its trainer is none other than Santa Claus. Doug?
And we get a good reaction from Brock. Brock goes, Santa Claus. And then, yeah, we look in the boot, and there's a little badge with Santa Claus's face on it in the kind of the shape of a snowflake. And
Yes.
And we're all kind of stunned. And then Charmander's dragging Pikachu over, and then Brock goes immediately into explanation mode.
Yes.
Saying that maybe this Jinx got separated from Santa Claus, and
yeah, he's like, maybe Jinx got separated from his trainer, and that trainer is Santa Claus. And Jinx is like, "That's it," and tries to tries to grab Brock. And I think this is the one and only time Brock is trying to not get kissed by a woman, even though this woman is a Pokemon. And Brock is like, "No, no, 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 no! Don't kiss me! Don't kiss me! Don't kiss me!" And then they agree on helping Jinx. Oh, actually, they don't agree yet. Jinx goes into some type of glowing psychic mode and takes its hair and places it on top of everybody's head, including Charmander and Pikachu, even though Pikachu's sleeping. So Pikachu's going to be dreaming this.
I have to say, I didn't care for this. Not so much what happened here. I liked what happened here, but I didn't like that Brock had the wherewithal to go, Jinx is projecting her memory into our heads. It's like you're in the process of being like taken over. You shouldn't have the wherewithal to spit out a whole sentence.
I know, for real. But kids show, you got to explain to us dumb kids from when we were little. Hey, I didn't know what Jinx was doing. For all I knew, Jinx was about to murder these three.
I mean, I did have a moment of, I didn't think Jinx could evolve. And then I was like, oh, right.
So so Brock saying that explained a lot.
It was dumb.
So when Jinx is projecting its memory onto the trio, we find out the story of Jinx getting separated. So basically, Jinx was polishing Santa's boot far out at the edge of an iceberg, it looks like. And the iceberg got warm, a little too warm, and it cracked and it split. And Jinx ended up just floating away. Which I have a problem with that, like knowing what I know about Jinx today, because Jinx is not only a psychic Pokemon, but it's an ice type too.
Right.
So why couldn't Jinx just create more ice and walk back?
Because it's a kid's show. We needed something to do for 20 minutes.
I mean, unless back then, I mean, I might be putting too much thought into this, but
you are.
I am. And maybe back then, because Pokemon that's here today, back when we originally had Pokemon like in Red and Blue and Yellow version, each Pokemon had one type. Mm-hmm. You're either a flying type, a fire type, a leaf type. It didn't matter. You had one type. But today, a Pokemon can have two types, and under certain circumstances could have three types. I mean, we have Electabuzz and the evolved form of an Electabuzz that can use fire attacks these days.
Oh, so I mean,
anything's fucking possible now.
I mean, well, you could make an argument that anything should be possible anyway. It's a freaking kids' fantasy cartoon.
So. We come back from Jinx showing what happened to her. And this is when the trio decides that they're going to help Jinx because Jinx is crying and has no way of getting back to Santa Claus.
And I mean, to be fair, Santa Claus has no right boot.
Nope. He does not.
I mean,
even though he makes presents for everybody, he can't make a boot. That's a one of a kind.
That's his boot, man. He can't be making his own boots.
But I do want to add right before I have you take over this next part, Doug, that once they agree to help Jinx, Jinx tries to do the same thing that she did to Brock and tries to give Ash the good old kissy kiss. And Ash is like, no, don't kiss me. Don't kiss me. No. Stop it.
yeah. If you want to thank me, don't kiss me.
All right. So go ahead and take on this next part with Team Rocket, bro.
Yeah. So we get Team Rocket's, they're standing on top of the cliff with their binoculars. And Jessie has a good point.
She says that Jinx is not going to get away from her now. And we go straight from that to the trio and Jinx have made a makeshift raft and Brock and Ash are pushing the raft so they can start floating away to start floating back up to the North Pole.
And then
they're going to the North Pole, and look at what Misty's wearing.
Well, it's whatever. And then Ash has like a good point, and he goes, Misty, who is the only one standing on the raft at this point, so whatever that's worth to you, says, "Hey, don't you have like a bag full of water type Pokemon? What are they doing here?"
And she throws them out so that they could tie these Pokemon to the raft and so that they can carry them down in this water.
And everybody's doing their part except old Psyduck, who, instead of getting punched off the raft like he would be in previous episodes, Misty says, "Oh, you could just, piggyback off the other's hard work."
Yeah, for real. I think this is the one and only time Misty's actually nice to Psyduck. And maybe it's because they're about to go see Santa Claus, so she doesn't want to be seen punching a Pokemon, because all Jinx has to do is put her hair up to Santa's face and say she's mean to Pokemon.
That's a fair point.
So, all right, Doug, you want to continue?
Yeah, so our heroes are on the raft, and Team Rocket is back in the Gyarados submarine, and they're pedaling, and our heroes are drifting because the Pokemon are exhausted, and they shift into like overdrive for a few feet, and we see like Starmie and Staryu are like running on empty, and
Squirtle's on his back.
Ash then skips down to his skivvies and dives in, and never mind the fact that Brock could probably help as well, but
where the hell is Brock? But Ash is basically pulling this thing. He ties the raft around his waist, and he goes for maybe about like 2 or 3 minutes, I'm guessing. And he starts getting cold, and he starts getting tired. And then all of a sudden we hear a voice, like in the water. And what did that voice say, Doug?
He said, "You're going in the right direction, but you've got a long way to go."
Gotcha. And Ash looks back and he's like, "Did you guys say something?" And Misty's like, "No, we didn't say anything. You want to keep going?" And Ash continues, and Ash ends up dropping to the bottom of the water from exhaustion.
Well, and a big old friggin' wave comes by and knocks everybody for 6 as well.
Yes. And from there, Ash goes down in the water, and then he hears a voice again, and he's looking in the water, and instead of panicking, sees this creature coming towards him. And then we go into commercial mode. But before we go into commercial mode, I want to point out that anyone who knows Pokemon saw that the formation right before we went to Who's That Pokemon is a Lapras. It's in the form of a Lapras.
And we've seen a Lapras because Lapras is in the opening song.
Yes. So we go to the Who's That Pokemon this week, and it's none other than Pidgeotto. Pidgeotto. And why is it Pidgeotto, Doug?
Because maybe they realized Pidgeotto hadn't been in yet. Somehow.
So, all right. So, yeah, we got Pidgeotto, and we come back, and we see this being finally appear, and it's a Lapras. And we find out that Lapras is using telekinesis and talking to Ash inside of his head. Doug?
Is it corny that every time Lapras talks, it has to glow?
A little bit.
I think it's corny. So we get the standard. Are you talking to me through your mind? And Lapras basically looks at him dead in the eye and says, "Yes." Like, and then Ash realizes he's been underwater for like probably a couple minutes at this point and starts to freaking panic.
Yes.
Because he doesn't have one of those breathing gimmicks he had when they were doing the water show back at the Cerulean Gym.
For real, yeah.
But I don't know if that would work anyway, because that was like, you know.
Yeah, he was knocked pretty far down in the water.
And this is like legitimate, like probably some type of salt water as well, because like this is like fresh water.
Yes. So Ash is like, "Who are you?" And he pulls out Dexter, finds out that it's a Lapras. And this is the first time that Ash has encountered Lapras, and Lapras is doing laps around Jynx, Brock, and Misty and Pikachu on their raft.
And so we find out that Lapras is kind of a pacifist, says it prefers to carry humans on its back rather than engage in battle.
Yes.
Which would stand to reason why Lapras was the shape that you took whenever you went into water in the video games, even though most of the time you didn't have a Lapras at that point.
I always thought that was weird. Did you not think that was weird back in the day?
Well, I did until I finally got one, and then I was like, yeah, but they couldn't have known that I was eventually going to get one. So but yeah, I didn't know why the default, at least until you got maybe later on in the game, maybe the default should have been like a Squirtle, but then you're realizing a full-grown a full-grown...
They should have just made it a blob.
Right, and you could have just avoided this whole conversation.
Yes, just a blue blob.
But my counter to the argument that I suppose I started is one of the first things you see when you boot up the game and get into like the title screen. Don't you see a Lapras like underwater?
You might. I it's been a while since I played
right
that, but you might not be wrong. I know you see Gengar and I believe it's Onyx battling each other, but I'm not sure. Oh, actually, yeah. I think Lapras was in because I think that was Surfing Pikachu in the yellow version.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I don't know, but
yeah, I'm not sure.
Lapras is in the title screen, which was our initial point.
Yes, and we find out that Lapras has been watching the trio with Jynx for quite a while, and Ash gets kind of pissed off. And he's like, "Well, why are you just now choosing to help us?"
Which is a fair point.
And
the whole thing could have been over by now.
And freaking Lapras basically looks at him and goes, "I had to make sure that your heart was in the right place." I mean, for fuck's sake! I mean, they're sitting there helping Jynx, but maybe in Lapras's defense, Lapras wanted to make sure that not just anyone is going up to the North Pole to see Santa Claus and that's going to sabotage anything.
Well, because then I guess the counter to that would be, well, then Team Rocket could just catch a ride and then,
Yep.
But yeah, you have to be pure of heart, and never mind the fact that you're talking to Ash, who, I mean, I guess he didn't. I mean, I was going to say he literally died for his love of Pokemon, but technically none of that ever happened. So,
yeah, we don't talk about that. And so in this episode, we continue. Misty's looking around. She's like, "What was that?" And Brock has to then tell Misty Lapras is using telekinesis to speak to them inside of their heads. And Lapras then agrees to take the trio and Jinx to the North Pole to go see Santa Claus, but does warn them that it's about to get really, really cold where they're going.
So, we should make the argument that, and there goes Jinx trying to kiss Brock again. We should make the argument that, Misty should dress warmer, but then you remember that she didn't have a change of clothes when they were trudging up that mountain.
No, she didn't.
So to heck with it, I suppose.
So we go back to Jesse and James and Meowth, and they're inside the Gyarados, and they're following the raft on their way up to the North Pole. And then we go back, and it's now raining, and Jinx is shielding Misty and Pikachu with her hair. Ash is enjoying the rain on his body on the back of Lapras, and good old Brock is over there fishing.
Yes, Brock must have acquired a fishing rod a couple levels back, so he's just he's off the old side of the raft. He's going to catch about 17 Magikarps, and maybe if he's lucky,
a Gyarados.
A Gyarados.
So, but it's not too much further down the water path that we jump straight from that to Jinx taking her hair and wrapping it around our trio to keep them warm, because they are now close to the North Pole and it is dead cold over there, and they are not dressed for this weather. And
freaking Jinx is just sitting there with a cup of cocoa or coffee, something. She's got a cup of something.
Just ready. And they're pulling up to the North Pole, and the North Pole doesn't even look like the North Pole. It looks like a big island full of just ice crystals.
Yeah, I mean, if we're mentioning Santa Claus, are we not allowed to get the stereotypical like wood cottage covered in snow, chimney with smoke coming out of it? Maybe some snowmen out front. Like, no, this is like some ice palace, like out of some Zelda game or something.
Yeah, for real. So,
and their path is impeded by the Gyarados submarine coming above the water, and Team Rocket comes out and they're trying to do the motto, but they're cold as well.
Yeah, they can't do it. I felt bad for them, but not. Well, I mean, because Jessie, the whole thing is Jessie's pissed off because she believes Jinx is Santa Claus, and she thinks Jinx is a thief. So she has legitimate reason to be kind of pissed off right now, in her head.
Well, I don't really care. I don't have sympathy for them being cold. They knew what they were getting into.
That's true. But yeah, they were nice and warm. Well, I would have to guess that they were nice and warm inside of Gyarados until they got out. But they're trying to do their motto, and they're so cold that they can't even do it.
And freaking Meowth literally turns tail and goes back in the submarine and ducks under a table and says, "Now is about as good a time as any to go undercover."
Yeah, which is a funny line, by the way.
And so then we get back and we're in the middle of Team Rocket's teeth chattering exposition. And Jesse, I don't know why.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was about to say Jesse finally throws out the line that she's here for Santa Claus, and she's finally going to get Santa Claus, and everyone's looking around like, what do you mean Santa Claus?
Where's Santa Claus?
And she's like, that's him right there. And everyone looks over at Jinx, and I would have bust out and started laughing at this point.
Well,
Doug?
I don't know. I mean, because you gotta. Why couldn't Santa Claus be a jinx?
I don't know. I mean, if Jinx can't even um if Jinx can't even get itself back over to the North Pole, how can it fly around the world?
Well, telekinesis.
I well, then it can use telekinesis and go back to its home and wouldn't need freaking the trio to be on this raft, but that's neither here nor there, I guess. But
Well, you're not wrong.
but but all right. So Doug, you were saying?
So yeah, so everybody's kind of laughing at Jesse for thinking the jinx, that Santa Claus is a jinx, and Jesse's like, don't laugh at me. I know what I saw, and James gives Meowth the signal, and Meowth unleashes a rocket that goes shooting up, and then is coming down, and everybody on the raft is panicking except for Jinx. And as everybody's watching the rocket come down, Team Rocket somehow swoops over, picks Jinx
Perhaps
up,
Jinx.
and the rocket turns out to have a net in it, and it's captured everybody, and the submarine goes back underwater, and then we go into the Shining Ice Palace.
Yes, and in the shiny palace, Team Rocket is looking in, and they see numerous Jinx. So everybody knows the story of Santa Claus, and Santa Claus has a bunch of elves that are making all the toys, but instead of elves, it's literally a shop just full of Jinx. And I am now now that I'm reviewing this episode, I am putting two and two together as to why people are kind of up in arms on this episode. I get it.
Well,
I get it. Do you not get it?
I know I get it, but you don't see a lot of black elves.
No, you don't. And it's such a touchy subject. I'm not even going to go into it, but I mean, looking at this freeze frame of where I'm at right now, I get it. It's just a bunch of Jinx. I mean that's kind of digging, but I mean, if that has to be the reason that they didn't like this episode outside of the whole blackface.
I mean, you're not wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say you're wrong for interpreting it that way.
I mean, because like I said, I'm one where I'm kind of at a loss outside of the whole blackface thing, but I'm trying to justify what people are talking about and why they're so angry about it. But I mean, I can see it. In this scene, I can see it. There's a bunch of Jinx inside making a whole bunch of toys, and Jessie has her face pressed up against the glass, and she's like, "There's a lot of Santa Clauses in there."
That got me. That got me. I'm not gonna lie to
you. And James is like, "This is gonna be the best Christmas ever." So they're getting ready to go in there and just wreak havoc on the entire Santa operation. Doug?
And then Jessie gets a look at the actual Santa Claus and says, if that is actually Santa Claus, then why did that Jinx steal my doll? And she's like having a bit of a crisis.
She's at a loss of words. She's like, if why did Jinx steal my toy if that's Santa? And you see, and I wanna throw in there, Santa Claus is not wearing he has a sock on, and then he has his other boot on. Like
Right.
this man is walking around with one boot and one sock instead of just taking both boots off and just wearing socks inside of the inside of his workshop. Like what?
You're right. You're right. If you get a hole in one shoe, you throw the whole pair. You throw the pair out. You don't just throw the one out and start wearing the right side of a different pair of shoes.
But Santa Claus sits there and he's like, "Man, I hope that Lapras finds my other boot and the Jinx, so I can get this boot back on my foot." And he scratches his foot, and Jessie plops in, and she's like, "Are you looking for this?" And she's holding up the boot, and Santa's like, he's like, "Oh, that's my boot. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it so much."
And then we find out that apropos of nothing, our heroes have gotten out of the net, and they basically walked right in the front door and says, "Look out! They're gonna those those three belong on your naughty list." And Santa Claus is rightfully annoyed and surprised. He's like, "What is with all these people just walking into my workshop? We got to get better security around here."
For real. And I'm sure after this episode he did. he moved shop.
He moved shop.
So Team Rocket then jumps on Santa and wraps him in a rope, and all the Jinx that are around there. What good are these Jinx? These are psychic Jinx. So
Right.
we're not even thinking they're ice Pokemon. Why the hell aren't these Jinx attacking Team Rocket?
They're domesticated. They don't fight.
I guess. I want to know where Santa got all these Jinx at that he captured.
He went to the Safari Zone during the off season.
In all this, there are Jinx and Dragonite.
Yes, because you see, snow was on the ground, so all it was Jinx and Dragonite was in the water.
Yes.
Well, Lapras.
Yes, that too.
And that's what it was.
So Meowth howls out that they're about to go and steal all the presents and keep them for themselves. And then we go straight from that to the outside where Santa Claus and our trio are all tied up in ropes, which I don't understand if Ash can beat Team Rocket any other time, how they were able to tie everybody up, but I guess they did. And there's a bunch of bags, and they are now demanding all these Jinx into the Gyarados, bringing in all the presents of every single child around the world. Doug?
And, we're getting all, you can't do this. You're taking presents from children all over the world. And Jessie says, "Oh, I'm just making up for the doll that was stolen from me years ago." And Santa Claus says, "What do you mean stolen?" She goes, "Oh, like you don't remember." Well, actually, she says, "Oh, ho, 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 like you don't remember."
So did you like that line?
That wasn't horrible. And then, Santa Claus is confused. And he says, that Jinx, and, Santa Claus says, "What do you think? What exactly do you think that Jinx was doing?" And she says, "That Jinx came down my chimney on Christmas Eve and stole my doll." And then the same Jinx, I'm assuming, that just happens to be the Jinx that we were following this whole episode.
And you take telekinesis.
And then we get basically Jinx's side of the issue.
Yes. Jinx found Jessie's toy on the floor, and Jessie's toy was broken on the floor. So Jinx is like, "Oh, I completely forgot about that toy," and goes into Santa's workshop and then comes back out and has Jesse's toy, and it's nice and fixed. So Jinx fixed the toy, which, okay. So this whole time, years and years and years later, so we find out Jesse was telling the truth, and they never brought this toy back. So Jinx did steal this damn toy. That is stealing.
In a matter of speaking, yeah. I mean, because how many opportunities did she probably have to throw it into Santa's bag and give it back? With, you know, and you could even put a note, you know, sorry, lost track of time, whatever. So yeah, you're not wrong.
So and Jessie said it, and she has a line that it's been, so she's over 20. So because she says it's been a little over 20 years, and you've had 20 years to give back my dolly, but you didn't. And Santa kind of says, I'm sorry. Jinx brought the toy back. They have a lot of kids that they end up helping, and it just must have gotten lost in the shuffle. And I apologize that we did not give your toy back. But your toy was broken, and now it's fixed.
And, you know, James is weird because he's sitting back. He's leaning against the iceberg, and he's got tears in his eyes. He's, oh, Jesse is sorry. And then he just, ha!
So, oh, sorry. I was watching the clip. So Misty ends up going at this part, and she's like, so Jesse thought this whole time that Jinx was Santa Claus because Jinx came down the chimney and took her toy and went back up. So she thought this whole time, so she's hated Santa Claus ever since.
And, you know, we think, oh, we're going to get the big, you know, happy ending. And Santa Claus says, oh, now that you know the truth, you can untie me. She goes, wow, I'm not that grateful. And then the submarine starts to disappear, and Jesse has a parting line of saying, if you want something so bad, why don't you just ask Santa Claus for it?
And it's at this point that we finally have the Jinx use their power. So all the Jinx are all together, and they're looking at the submarine, and
ain't the Jinx.
No, it's not the Jinx. It's freaking Lapras. Lapras ends up using its power to bring all the toys back over, so it's not freaking. So they're not broken, and then ends up getting rid of Team Rocket.
So it's a pacifist for the most part, except when Christmas is on the line, because then Lapras pops up and says Christmas is for everybody. Fucking freezes the submarine, basically turns Team Rocket into human popsicles.
Yes. So Lapras uses Ice Beam, freezes up the Gyarados. Ash somehow, while he's tied up, gets out Charmander and tells Charmander to burn the ropes
without burning them somehow.
Yeah. And burns the rope off, so everyone is nice and free now. And
melts the freaking
ice
on the submarine. Freaking Meowth and James are burning. Jesse throws out Wheezing, which I thought was weird.
Yeah, because what the hell is Wheezing going to do?
Right. Well, it's not even. Well, that's not her Pokemon.
She stole it from James, just like she stole all those presents.
Fell out of his pocket when he jumped up burning. Poor Charmander gets sludge.
Yeah, right in the face, and Charmander can't even see. Like this is adding points to why Charizard is a dick these days.
Yeah. And then the submarine does disappear.
Yes, it goes underwater and they start getting away. And it's at this point, this is the part where all the Jinx come together and get all the presents back.
Because they use a group psi wave to bring the submarine out of the water while Team Rocket is still pedaling, mind you.
Yes.
Bring the submarine to them, tip the submarine sideways so that all the presents pour out. I mean, for goodness sakes.
Like they couldn't have done this a while ago, but it is funny because as Jinx is shaking the Gyarados up and down, we get a funny glimpse inside of the submarine where Jesse and James are bouncing back and forth up and down inside of the Gyarados. They're just hitting the ceiling, hitting the floor, hitting the ceiling, hitting the floor. And then freaking Jinx once they get all the presents out, makes the Gyarados go flying and Team Rocket is blasting off again.
Yeah, I just, and then, I don't understand it.
They don't attack anybody unless Santa Claus tells them to.
And then we find out that Santa Claus's sleigh is being driven by a Rapidash.
Yes.
And then, as Santa Claus is driving away, Ash has this realization that, oh, I forgot to tell Santa Claus what I wanted. Lapras
and they have the realization that Santa always knows.
And Jinx comes up with presents for everybody, and it starts to snow, and everybody's all happy, and we go have a cup of cocoa.
Yes, and that's the end of this week's episode.
Well, there's a tag at the end here. We got Team Rocket all in the same bed.
back on the castle, all defeated.
And James says, you might as well take that stocking down. Santa Claus isn't going to come back after this stunt. And then, we get one final shot of Jinx at the window, blowing the three of them a kiss and puts them right out. And then we see Santa Claus pulling his sleigh over the moon. Well, being driven, I suppose.
Yes. And Team Rocket does not get any presents because they were naughty. So, good for them.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
So, but yeah, what did you think of this week's episode, Doug, on your Doug meter?
A 2. I mean, it was fine, but I mean, honest to goodness, what really happened?
Nothing.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. I'm going to give it about a 1 because literally nothing fucking happened in this episode at all. I mean, we saw Jinx and we saw Lapras. I mean, for God's sakes, we're getting ready to get into the Orange League pretty soon, and we're going to be seeing Lapras on almost every damn episode. So I don't fucking know, man. Like, this episode kind of, I mean, there were some funny parts, which is why I gave it the 1. I mean, I probably would have given it a 0 star this week because we had there was no progression, there was no gym battles, there was barely any battling at all in this episode. So I mean, it's not checking off any points on mine because in order to get some type of stars, you need battles or you need a storyline progression or like a badge that you're about to get in this episode. Like we had nothing. There was literally nothing in this episode.
Like I said, it follows the trope of the banned episodes because you could honestly skip those episodes and not miss squat.
Yes. So that's this week's episode. It is time to go and open up a good old pack of Pokemon cards. All right, everybody. I do have it right here. This week, I am opening a Chilling Rain pack. I'm taking a break from the Evolving Skies. So, because I have a lot of those upstairs, and I've been opening those recently, and I still have a bunch of these Chilling Rain, if I can open this pack properly. Because I don't want to see any of the cards. All right, there we go. All right. So, all right, I'm guessing this is a dud pack because I got the black card, but we're about to find out. Put the 4 cards at the bottom. Doug, I'm going to tell you this week what the card is because it's a steel card, because I don't think you would have guessed that it was a steel energy because it's not something that we grew up with.
Oh yeah, so, no chance.
So, all right. So we have a steel energy, a Whirlipede, a trainer card called Crushing Gloves, another trainer card called Honey, a Heracross, a Sobble, an Inky, or an Inkay. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's actually a new Pokemon in Pokemon Go. They just released this Pokemon to us about 2-3 weeks ago now. And the way to evolve this Pokemon, just like in the Game Boy, you have to flip your Game Boy upside down. So you have to flip your phone upside down in Pokemon Go in order to evolve this Pokemon, which is pretty cool. A Squirvet, a Scorbunny, a Surfetch, or a Galarian Surfetch, the evolved form of Farfetch. And then my rare this week is a Ampharos. So yeah, kind of a dud pack because my reverse holo is a Surfetch, but I will add Surfetch to the card set because I do not have that card yet. So that is my first Surfetch.
Oh, there you go.
So I did get a card that I do not have, everybody, and I'm getting tired of getting these damn Ampharoses because I feel like I have like 5 of these now. But yeah, that's this week's episode. Do you have anything else that you want to add before we sign out today, Doug?
Not really. Wasn't really in a Christmas mood before I started. I'm not. I'm still not because we haven't even had Halloween yet.
Happy Hollow Thanksmas. There you go.
Don't you be cheating me out on my Thanksgiving, boy.
I said Hollow Thanksmas.
Well, I'm just saying, don't you be cheating me out of my Thanksgiving.
So, all right, but all right. So then, with that being said, next week is still another. It's gonna be. I mean, I feel like next week's episode, we've already recorded it, Doug, is a lot better than this Jinx episode that we went over. So get ready for next week's episode. It's called Snow Way Out. It's where our trio gets lost in a bunch of snow and they have to find their way out. Will they survive? I have no idea. So
end of the series.
And yeah, next week we're still in the past of where we have Charmander, Squirtle, Bulbasaur, no evolved forms. Not even sure how many badges Ash has. I might be able to do some digging and find that out because that's right after the Porygon episode. So however many badges he had up until that point.
Right.
But all right, let's go ahead and get on and sign out, Doug. Say goodbye, Doug.
Goodbye, Doug.
And this is Wrestling Chris G telling all of you, don't miss next week's episode, everybody. I hope you'll like it. Have a good night, everyone.